To me, and I've been around a long time doing this, I will say I think it's a different thing than just a buzzword. I think AI is real. As I like to say, the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's not going back in. Every business from here forward will need to understand the implications of and opportunities for deploying and leveraging AI within their business.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guest, Jeff Wallace from Silicon Valley in your pocket. And we'll be diving into his story today a little bit, what it is his company does. And then, as always, some engaging insights into the technology industry. So, make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Jeff, welcome. Thanks for hopping on.
I'm really, really happy to be here. Look forward to the discussion with you today.
Awesome. Jeff, if we can maybe kick things off, if you don't mind, just to provide us a snippet or two, just a bit around your background.
Originally a East Coast guy. I grew up born in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in New Jersey, and I studied economics and finance, went to Wall Street, and I thought that was going to be my path forward in my career. But after a few years, I decided to move to the West Coast to do an MBA, a graduate business degree. I thought I'd be out on the West Coast for 2 years, but that was 35 years ago. I'm still out in the San Francisco Bay Area. I fell in love with the entrepreneurial attitude of the Bay Area, and I've become one of I guess for 3.5 decades now, I've been out here building my career and my reputation supporting other founders out here. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. Tell me, and then your business. I think it's might be good if you can explain the name of your company a bit, and just how about that happened.
It's funny with your background from South Africa. My business's name was inspired by a colleague from South Africa, of yours, I should say. He was a founder who had made his way from South Africa to the Bay Area. He was applying to my other, what I'll call local accelerator. We had a co-working space and all the works. This was pre-COVID. And I really, really like the guy quite a bit. He's just a wonderful person. We're still friends to this day. It's been about 7 years now. And I pulled my mobile phone out in the midst of a conversation with him about his business and wishing he had been able to accelerate back home in South Africa. And I said to him, when you have one of these, it's like having Silicon Valley in your pocket. And that name kind of clicked for him and I, and we decided to create a virtual accelerator to work with founders like himself all over the world and accelerate them where they are without the need for everybody to make the journey or the trek to here in Silicon Valley. Very costly, very time consuming, very resource heavy. And so he became the original co-founder of Silicon Valley in Your Pocket, and he formed this virtual acceleration program, which now, 7 years down the road, we have accelerated over 3,300 companies across 40 different countries. So he being the inspiration of the whole thing.
Wow, that is so profound. Uh, when it comes to what you guys do from a trend perspective, what have you picked up in the market lately? What way's the wind blowing these days, Jeff?
Certainly, it's not going to be a surprise when I say AI is all the rage.
The buzzword, right? It's the
The
buzzword.
buzzword, but it is, to me, and I've been around a long time doing this, I will say I think it's a different thing than just a buzzword. I think AI is real. As I like to say, the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's not going back in. Um, every business from here forward will need to understand the implications of and opportunities for deploying and leveraging AI within their business. I don't care if you're a cupcake baker or you're a SaaS app creator. You're going to
Right.
have to wrestle with, what does this AI mean to me? And in some cases, obviously, it's going to be a wide spectrum. In some cases, it'll be smaller impact. In other cases, it will be a dramatic impact. I truly believe this is the first significant technological shift where the advancement is threatening and attacking white collar, more professional knowledge worker jobs versus in the past where these advancements have really gone after automation of traditionally what was thought of as a more blue collar type job.
Right.
So
Right.
this is a different thing. And in fact, we reformatted one of our other accelerator programs called the Batchery. We reformatted the entire program to focus strictly on AI. We run a program now called the Pragmatic AI program, and it's helping companies understand how to be pragmatic about AI. And now, 1 year ago, we did not have that focus. Now we do.
Good point. The tell me, Jeff, I think this may be a good time if you touched on it earlier, but explain to the audience what is it specifically what your company does.
Yeah, so in both programs, both the Battery and Silicon Valley in Your Pocket, our focus and goal is to accelerate startup founders, typically focusing on seed and pre-seed,
Right.
the younger companies. I don't want to say younger entrepreneurs. They could certainly be of any age, and they are. But we work with the younger companies to try to help them improve and advance their investor readiness. Now, when I say investor readiness, that you can really hear that as we help them build viable, sustainable businesses. Because if you have those elements in your business, you're moving towards a more mature investor readiness. So we focus on it on investor readiness because in that stage of business or those stages, they're all raising capital. They all need to get in front of investors. They need to have a proper investor story that's going to capture the attention and enthusiasm and ultimately the financial support of that investor audience. So when we say investor readiness, it's really helping them build viable, sustainable businesses. Ultimately, that can attract the investor capital that it needs to move forward.
Right. Oh, that understood. Understood. And tell me the if you had to, because obviously there's other people that assist companies when it comes to getting your
Absolutely.
company ready, right? And there's obviously in investors play a role and acquisition. From a value standpoint, Jeff, what would you like say is Treg? You know what? This is what makes us different in this company. What would that be?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, and you're absolutely right. There's certainly competition in our world of what we
Right.
do. There's the big global programs like Y Combinator and
Yeah. Yeah.
Techstars, 500 Global, Plug and Play. These are some of the bigger names, Draper University. These are all big names, and we come up against them when we're doing international work or domestic programming. But definitely, we think we've kind of carved a little bit of our own swim lane. We're very, very high touch. We don't just do generic programs, we do small cohorts. We have about 55 plus mentors that are very actively working with us. And these are,
Wow.
top-notch mentors. And we only do cohorts of about 12 companies on average, and they get access to this vast mentor pool for very high touch support and help. It's not just generic workshops and lectures. So we're really, really strong on this high touch approach. And we do something that is unique. We have not seen anyone else doing it. We create what's called an investor readiness assessment report. This is a very detailed report that goes over what we call our 9 vital signs of startup success. And in each of the 9 vital signs, we provide feedback, recommendations, actionable resources that the founders can use to make the recommendations real within their business. And we provide them a list of due diligence questions that an investor might ask them based on the information we receive from them, their website, a business plan, whatever documentation they provide us. Our team of mentors reviews and crafts these reports. They're typically between, say, 8 and 11 pages of very detailed, like as we would call it again, vital sign by vital sign. A vital
Yeah.
sign, just to be clear, it might be something like the problem, the solution, and the value proposition. That is
Right.
vital sign 1. Nothing in our vital signs is unique to a startup kind of presentation, investor story, but the way we review it and ingest as much material and output them this very detailed and prescriptive report called an investor readiness assessment. We have not heard anybody doing anything like that or seen anyone doing that. And they're valuable not only to the founders themselves, for obvious reasons, it's great for them, but it's incredibly valuable for our mentors because they'll see what another group of mentors reviewed and identified the gaps, because we provide a little radar chart which shows the gaps between where the founders think they are and where this external unbiased group of 4 or 5 of our mentors who collectively review these documents and write these reports, where they think the founders are. There's always gaps, there's always a discrepancy, and the goal is that these reports provide value to the founders, to the mentors, and ultimately we do them for investors as well. When they get companies coming to them, they'll pass the materials on to our team to say, hey, can you run one of your investor
Yeah.
readiness assessments? I'd love to see where your group of investors and
Where
mentors
they're
see
at.
this company.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's okay. I understand a lot better. Yeah, I fully
yeah.
agree. That's good value, man.
It's
That's good
very good
value.
value. Yeah,
That's
people
good
love
value.
these reports. Yeah.
The do you mind giving us an example? Obviously, you don't have to mention the company's name, but just of a client that you guys have successfully, helped lately.
Yeah, I'll mask the name of it, but it's a company that pops to my mind. One company I'm working with, the founder now, she's an incredibly strong founder in terms of her execution
Right.
capability. I met this founder through mutual friends about, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. She had an idea. She had some pets, dogs, 2 dogs. She lived in Los Angeles at the time. She currently lives on the East Coast in New York area. And she would travel with her dogs. On occasion, she would take her dogs with her to go to work, or maybe just if she was going to the airport to go visit family or something, she would take her dogs with her. And inadvertently, when she would call an Uber or a Lyft, any other ride hailing, but basically Uber or Lyft, they'd pull up and say, hey, you're not getting into my car with your dogs. And they'd kind of
Yeah,
decline. And she would say it would take her on average 2 or 3 Uber calls to get a car that would actually take her. And she got very frustrated with this. Obviously, it adds a
I
lot
think
of
so.
frustration and challenge, right?
Yeah.
And so she came up with this idea after talking to other friends of hers who had pets and who had run into similar challenges, with the idea of creating a ride hailing service for people to transport with their dogs or their pets.
That's
She
awesome.
uh she ultimately moved to New York. I had met her when she was in LA. The business did not exist at that time. It was a great idea that she wanted to, grow into a business. Um, she launched it about 4 years ago. She had launched it right at the beginning of COVID, actually about 5 years ago now, right at the beginning of COVID, unfortunately. We got her a
Yeah.
partnership with one of the very large, recognizable brand name pet retailers here in the US, in
Yeah.
the New York area. And then about 3, 4 weeks into the partnership, COVID hits and shuts all retail down.
Goodness.
And so she very adeptly pivoted towards veterinarians. Veterinarians were essential and stayed open during the challenging times of COVID. And last year, she did north of $21 million in revenue in New York City.
What a story.
And I met
What?
this founder when she had an idea and was frustrated that this was happening when she would call these ride hailing services. She's now expanding into other major metropolis areas in the US, and it's an international opportunity.
Yeah.
She's done just a brilliant job, pivoting and navigating the market as difficult times like COVID occurred. And like I said, she went from, probably doing tens of thousands in revenue in 20 due to the situation to doing double-digit millions of dollars in revenue shortly thereafter and continuing to grow it quite effectively. So
Quite effectively.
that's an amazing, story to me
What a
because I've
what
known
a
that
story.
founder from the idea on the back of a napkin, if you will. You know how they say that. It
Yes.
was it was about that stage when she and I were introduced, and to see her grow this business with a small team that she has, just spectacular.
That is definitely spectacular. Having said that, Jeff, you've been obviously, like you mentioned, you've been at this for quite some time, right?
Yep.
Now, we've got a lot of listeners that is. It may be that they are, might be that they're like stuck in a rut, when it comes to their business, or they've got this glass ceiling, or it might even be, we've got listeners that's currently working at a company and they want to jump ship and just, you know, go be that entrepreneurial spirit and, make things happen for themselves. If you don't mind, you work with a lot of companies. Is there maybe like one or two snippets or nuggets, as we say, that you can maybe provide with some advice, for if you want to go and do your own thing, right? What is it, what it takes, or maybe things that you've learned or what you've seen?
A couple of things that jump to my mind, upon hearing your question.
Yeah,
Um, make sure there's a real problem. A lot of founders say, oh, this happened to me, just like my example. She was traveling with dogs, realized this was a challenge for her, asked other people, found out it was a challenge for them. There was a willingness that they would pay something to be able to do it. And so she said, I'm going to take the opportunity to jump in and create a business that tries to solve this challenge, not just for myself, although I love when it's a personal story, like it was for this particular founder, but for many others that experience the same challenges. So make sure that the thing you think is a challenge that you're going to go create a business to create a solution to that challenge with, make sure that it's a challenge for others as well. Oftentimes we think because we experience something, everybody else experiences that same something.
good point.
Basically what I'm saying is do your customer discovery. Make sure it's a real market problem. The number one reason startups fail is it turns out there's no actual market to solve the problem they're solving for. That's the number one reason. 42% of startups fail because there's really no market for what they've brought to market.
Right,
The
right,
other thing I would say is don't ever listen to people who say no to your idea, meaning they say it's a bad idea, the naysayers. There's a
right.
lot of people in business, in life, who you say, hey, I have this idea. I'm thinking of doing a business around this. What do you think? And they go, yeah, that's not going to work. Here's 8 reasons why that's never going to work. And they rattle off. What I would always say to anybody who believes there's an opportunity to pursue, do your customer discovery, validate that it's real, and ignore the naysayers because so many people, for subconscious or conscious reasons, are going to try to squash your enthusiasm and squash your idea. There's a lot of people who told a lot of businesses we live with every single day, this is a terrible idea. Why would you do this? And now
Right.
these are brand names, in our lives. The third and final thing I'll say is don't worry if your idea, as you start down the track, if it doesn't quite work out exactly as you thought. There's a word called pivot that exists for this exact reason. We learn things along the way that change the course, and just be flexible and willing to course adjust or course correct in the early stages of your journey. And I often use a few examples like, there's a company that started and failed as a limousine service. They were approaching limousine drivers and saying, hey, a lot of people would love to drive in a limousine. Maybe we can order a limousine from you. And, when you're not working with another client. And that company is now Uber. And it's around the world. It's one of the largest. It is probably the largest, if not one of the
Well,
largest ride hailing companies globally. They were a failed limousine service, right? That's okay. They pivoted. They were able to navigate that pivot. So stick to your beliefs, stick to your guns, try, and just go for it. I think that's innovation is what gets us out of all the world's problems and helps us advance and move things forward and allows us to live the lives that we all live today, right? I'm sure you've driven in
right.
Ubers and you've
Yeah.
probably used Shopify or know companies that use Shopify. That was a failed online snowboarding e-commerce shop. That's what they started as. Realized a lot of companies need to pull together a lot of elements in order to sell something online. And they realized rather than selling snowboards, we may just build this platform that allows anybody to sell anything. You know, that's the kind of, to me, those are inspirational stories. And it shows
Yeah.
you that it doesn't matter if it's the same thing in the end as when you started. It just matters if you can navigate that pivot and that journey.
That is such good advice, and I think I believe there's a lot of people that's making a lot of notes right now. Um, I need to thank you, Jeff, for coming on. You provided. I can first off understand why your business is so successful. I wish you all the best going forward. Tell me,
Thank you.
where can the listeners, where can they get hold of you guys?
Yeah, I'm personally, anyone can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media guy, but I'm a big LinkedIn networker. So I'm a huge connector on LinkedIn, and I invite anyone to look for me. Just Jeff Wallace. I think you'll recognize the face if you see the face, or Silicon Valley in your pocket, or the Battery if you're going to be looking for just my companies. With respect to those, you can also go to those websites, SiliconValleyInYourPocket.com or Batchery. It's BATCHERY.com. These are our two programs that we run. One is for cohorts, one is for individual founders. So depending on where you are, please, I invite anyone to come out and look for me and look me up and get in touch, and I'm happy to point you in directions as best as I can.
Lovely. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. We had some fun, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Treg. Appreciate the opportunity, and you have a great rest of your day.
Same to you.